So if you are in the wedding industry, you have probably heard people talk about how you should blog your weddings, but no one seems to really talk about the actual process of blogging weddings, start to finish, what it looks like, why you do it. So I'm going to give you all of that in this video.
Hello, editor Tyler here. One quick note. So originally when we filmed this video, we were planning on doing the why blogging is important and Katelyn's process for blogging kind of all in the same video. But as you would expect with Katelyn, there was so much good content that we need to break it up into two videos. So this video is gonna be part one. That's gonna be a little bit about why blogging is important, why you should consider blogging and doing it for your business. And then we're gonna have a second video, part two, next week. That's gonna be more about Katelyn's process, how to actually blog, what the whole process looks like from start to finish, et cetera, et cetera. So just wanted to clear that up since we didn't really film it with that in mind. So anyway, back to the video.
Hey there, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a place where we like to empower photographers to build profitable and purposeful businesses while also letting you in a little bit in the behind the scenes of our day-to-day life. In this video, we're talking about blogging, and blogging has been the backbone of my business for the past 12 years. It was the end all be all to my marketing to be a wedding photographer. I could not have grown my business without it. Now, it's still important, but it plays a different role and it's important for different reasons. And so there's not a lot of industry education being thrown at you right now about blogging, because really a lot of our content about personal marketing and sharing and getting leads, a lot of that does fall into the category of Instagram and using social media. But blogging still exists for a reason. It's still really important for a reason. So what we're going to cover today is relatively high level, okay? So I'm going to give you the basic overview of how I do what I do and the impact that it has on our business. But if you want to see a deep dive and you want to know everything, like why I pair certain images and how I make those selections, how I cull, how I edit, how I do a 48-hour turnaround workflow for my blog after every wedding that I shoot, that is included in the KJ Consistency course, where I also share everything I know about Lightroom and editing. Linked below, you can learn more information about that. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So what is the main benefit of blogging? One benefit would be SEO. So without blogging, it's really hard to get just your website and your name and your brand to show up on Google when people are searching for certain keywords. You want to rank high for certain keywords. So if someone's looking for a photographer in your area or at a certain venue and they want to see images or work done at a certain place, like you want to show up when people are searching for these keywords. It's really impossible to do that if you just have a website that's rarely updated, maybe once a year. Every time you hit publish on a blog post, you're giving yourself a chance to be ranked higher on Google through boosting your SEO. Another benefit of blogging is that you are showing that you are an active photographer. I used to do coaching sessions for photographers and I looked at their blog and I'm like, oh man, they're not doing any work. Then they get in my office and I'm like, wait, you've been working your butt off for 2 years. You just haven't shown any of it. And here I am thinking you were dead, like no one's booking you, but really you just haven't been blogging. You haven't been updating anything. And so blogging shows me that you're alive, you're thriving, and that you're getting a lot of great inquiries and people are actually booking you. Another benefit is that you have more capability of utilizing the power of Pinterest. When you are blogging images constantly that can be pinned and shared on Pinterest, it directly links people right back to your blog when they find that image on Pinterest. And modern brides are still using Pinterest as a platform to plan and find inspiration for their wedding days. Last but not least, this is the core reason why I love to do it. This is where I get to showcase my personal connection with my clients, which is what makes me stand out in a lot of the photography world, is because we love becoming friends with the people that we work with. And we showcase that relationship and we talk about that friendship in our blog posts. And it's personal, it's relatable. We share about our favorite parts of the day, the way we connected with the moms, dads, sisters, aunts, uncles. We get to give a personal account of how the wedding day felt to us, and it allows us to feel more connected to the people that we had the privilege of working with. So it's our kind of like personal final, like, bow at the end of the process when we say, hey, your blog post is live. So personal marketing couldn't exist for us in the way that it does if we did not have these personalized recaps of the wedding days that we have photographed. So there are two main elements that you need for every blog post. You need images and you need words, and you need a certain amount of words for it to be effective. So if you just write one sentence about like, love shooting at this venue, what a cute couple, period, and then you're done, that's not really going to give you the most benefit in Google for SEO. So you need a 300 word minimum. So you at least need 300 words for it to be effective and to get the most bang for your buck in terms of keywords, being noticed, ranking, SEO, all that good stuff. So what do you talk about? Well, I would describe the day, the setting, the venue, what it looked like, what it felt like. Describe it for someone who could not be there. Sometimes when I'm describing the day, I'm trying to think if a grandparent was in a nursing home and couldn't come, what would you say to try to paint a picture for this person? The opening paragraph should be full of these keywords. So when you're describing the day from a physical standpoint and from a location standpoint, you're trying to plug in those keywords, use the venue name and location, the style and the theme of the wedding day, anything that the bride did that was maybe trending or that could be searched for with keywords. I would say use this as a very easy way to get one paragraph in. When you describe physically what everything looked like, when it felt like that's a pretty easy paragraph to write. Now, what are you going to do with the second paragraph? My approach to the second paragraph is then sharing my personal experience. And this is important for personal marketing for me, which is a whole nother conversation. I could talk about it literally for days, but you've got to be invested in your clients if you want them to invest into you. And so for me, I want to share my personal experience on the day so that other people reading this blog post know if I work with Katelyn and Michael, they truly enjoy their job. They love their clients. They treat family like their own family. Like I love their personal connection. So I talk about what was my favorite part of the day, what stood out to me, what do I personally connect with. A lot of times it's like the daddy-daughter connection because I'm close with my dad. Sometimes it's the fact that it's the baby sister getting married and all our older brothers bawled during the ceremony and I was bawling. I don't even know this family. Like that's the type of stuff I love writing in blog posts and it goes a long way. So describe it and then add your personal connection to it. You will easily hit your 300 word mark quickly. All right, so let's talk about images. How many images should you actually blog? I will be honest with you, you should not blog as many images as I do. I'm an overblogger, I'm an oversharer, and I have been admitting that for 12 years. I'm sorry. I just can't seem to scale it back. So not as many as I do, but you don't want to do less than 20 to 25 images. 20 to 25 images from a wedding day for a blog post to me seems pretty minimal. But I also wouldn't go over 150. And you may think, Katelyn, how in the world would you blog 150 images? You'd be surprised. It's very easy for me to do. I do it on a regular basis. So those are just some kind of general markers to go by. Maybe you do a 50 image blog post, maybe you do a 100 image blog post. You just want to stay, I think, above 20 to 25 images and below 150. So what is the strategy in choosing these images? Now, I could talk about this for days, but I'm going to be, from a high level. What are some basic concepts? You want to show more of what you want to shoot. So if you look at any of my wedding blog posts, I just naturally share the parts of the wedding day that I enjoy shooting, which means I get clients attracted to what I'm showing them, and then I'm booking clients that want a lot of portraits. So my blog posts are heavy on portraits and heavy on beautiful detail shots. I love doing gorgeous ring shots. I love piecing together really pretty bridal details, which we have a course on that if you struggle with that. I love those two parts of the day. So I tend to blog heavy those two parts of the day, and I book brides who love those two parts of the day. Now, I do also include some strong candid shots, because I want people to see, like, I capture in the moment things, not just editorial posed portraits. I want to highlight editorial aspects of the day, and I want to outline the full story of the day. So does that mean if you shot a wedding in a really ugly dark church with red carpet and orange lights that you've got to show a ton of the ceremony? No, you could show 3 or 4 images from the ceremony and blog them in black and white. But you still got to include that to make it part of the day. Now, I have had weddings where the bride and groom don't do a first look, but they want to do like hold hands blindfolded. And I personally don't want to do that anymore. It's kind of I view it as not the best use of the bride and groom's time. When there's so much to get accomplished. So I'm not going to blog that because I don't want a lot of brides being like, oh, me, I'm going to do that too. Instead, I blog a lot of portraits so that I get more portrait time when my brides are planning their day. So show your strengths, focus on what you want to shoot more of, and highlight that in your blog post. What are things you should not blog? You don't want to blog any colors in images that don't fit into the color story of the day. I know that sounds crazy. But if you photographed a bride and groom walking across a parking lot and there's big orange like construction cones behind them, don't blog that. If you are going to blog it in black and white. Even if they're laughing and the focus is great, the bokeh is amazing, I don't care. If you have bright orange cones and bright orange is not a wedding color, you should not blog that on the blog post. These are little tiny decisions that make your blog post and your content look more editorial and more high end by specifically picking a color story of the day, whatever their wedding colors are, whatever the general look is, and avoiding anything that doesn't fit into that. Something else you don't want to blog when it comes to selecting images, you want to avoid showing low-end details, all right? So if there are not many details at the reception, then don't do a big wide shot. Don't blog a big wide shot where there's plastic tables and maybe plastic tablecloths and one little votive on the table. Don't show that. You don't have to. No one says you have to. Instead, focus on maybe some cool shots of like an old piece of wood outside of the barn paired next to like a close-up shot of a bouquet. There are ways to make things look more editorial, and there are ways to hide things that are not high-end. Last but not least, try not to show duplicates. I know to you and I, it seems like, well, this portrait's great because he's leaning in, and the next portrait's great because her eyes are closed. But really, if it's the same pose, same location, same lens, same composition, it looks the same to most people. So try not to duplicate the images that you post. As you're selecting images, be sure to recognize that, like, even if a bride really loves something that maybe wasn't so visually appealing, like some neon sneakers that she danced in at a reception, do you really need to blog those? You might feel like you do because she loved them, but you don't. You're going to give her those images in her gallery, but you do not need to blog it on the blog post because it's not going to hurt you to not blog them for your bride's sake. It could hurt you in the future of a bride trying to gauge, like, what kind of caliber of weddings are you shooting? If you have a ton of those details that don't align themselves with looking high end, then when you do have high-end brides come along to your site and are deciding whether or not they love you, those things will be a deterrent to them. So think about the future goal of the blog post. You can still make your bride happy with the personal connection, but you don't have to show every little detail if it doesn't fit in to the overall concept of what you want the style of this post to look like. So here's some extra things to consider when it comes to your blog post. So you want to link out anything. Whenever there are opportunities to link in a post, you want to link there. Whether it's linking back to their engagement session, that should be a common link that you do for every single post because you should be blogging those sessions as well as the weddings. So link back to another post on your blog, link out to vendors, do a whole credit list of vendors either at the top or the bottom of the post. Links are worth their weight in gold. They're beautiful things to add into a blog post. You also want to add a cover image, or in some cases for WordPress blogs, they're called a featured image. And for me, I have found there's actually scientific evidence that shows that doing a collage or like an editorial collage like I do at the beginning of my blog posts, and it was more prevalent in my old blog structure. I recently redid my blog posts, but if you view all of my wedding blog posts like on like a sub homepage, you'll see these collages. I can actually show them on the screen. But these collages train people's brains to automatically perceive a wedding a certain way before they even see the open blog post and actually see the full post of images. So it's powerful because you can take perfectly curated images and piece them together to make it look like a wedding was way more high end than it really was. And you're training people to think that way about it before they actually see it. It's awesome. So that featured image matters. Do you have to do a collage? No, you don't have to, but I've seen a huge benefit in it. I started doing this probably back in 2012. I've seen literally hundreds of photographers follow suit because of the impact it has. Caption some of your photos, not all of them, but if something cute was happening or you have a personal connection to something that was happening or you want to explain something and use some keywords in there, this is a great way to add a little additional text, additional keywords, and to add your personal touch throughout the blog post. Last but not least, image names, alt text, specialty SEO tools like using Yoast or all-in-one SEO. These are all additional things that you can do to make your blog post more effective. Now, you could always optimize a blog post. Like, there's always ways you could do this. But in my experience, I don't have the capacity to update every single thing possible to all of my images, change all the image text to describe what the image is showing, to add alt text. That's a lot, all right? So that's a little bit of a deeper dive, but just know from a high level view, there are ways to ultimately kind of do an extreme form of optimizing a blog post that will serve you well if you put the time and effort in. And if you want more information about that, we could kind of deep dive into that later. I also talk more about that in my KJ Consistency course. So those are some extra things to consider. Links, cover image, some captions, and then doing optimization actions that will allow you to be found more easier in Google. If you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe, leave comments below if you have any questions for us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.